Most of you know that we've been filming the second season of Sycamore for the last few weeks. We're running the first season, you can come along on Thursday, and the second season will be out by Christmas, and this is the more kind of catechetical parts of the project, where we're teaching a little bit more deeply about what Christians believe. And one of the sessions is on prayer. And yesterday we were out in the streets around SOAS and Birkbeck and UCL doing vox pops, the interviews with supposedly random people in the street, carefully chosen, but supposedly random people, asking them the discussion questions. And one of the questions was simply, have your prayers ever been answered? Have your prayers ever been answered? And we had some great replies. Really, you can't prime people for this. So some people told these amazing stories. Yes, my prayer was answered. I prayed for this. It happened the next day. It was a miracle. Others said yes, but. Others said maybe. Others said I'm not sure. Others said no. And someone right near the end, they said, have your prayers been answered? No. And it's probably a very good thing that they weren't. Very deep. So look, just great fun, and I'll keep you up to date, and you can see these new films when they're out after Christmas, hopefully. And there's the question. Have your prayers ever been answered? Does God answer prayer? Why does he sometimes? Why doesn't he sometimes? And just by a coincidence, this is the scripture readings today, exactly that question, and going a bit deeper, all the puzzles and questions that it opens up. Moses is praying very hard for Israel in the battle against the Amalekites. This lovely image of him being on the hilltop with his arms outstretched, raised in prayer. And it's very simplistic view of prayer. I mean, it could get a bit superstitious if you took it in the wrong way, but just here he is. When his arms are up, the battle goes well. When he drops his arms because of tiredness, everything goes badly. Moses' prayer matters. It works. It's effective. So when he struggles, what happens? He needs to sit down, he needs the support of Aaron and Hur, but he keeps praying, and Israel wins the battle. Prayer matters. And in the gospel, the widow wants justice from this unjust judge. He's not interested. Interesting parable. It's a parable, remember. It doesn't tell you what God is like, but it tells you something about prayer. The unjust judge isn't interested, but she keeps pestering and banging on his door. She doesn't give up, and because she doesn't give up, this unjust judge gives her her due rights. He gives her justice. So these wonderful scripture readings, partly, first of all, about persistence in prayer. This is what the gospel author says. Jesus told a parable about persevering, about never giving up, about never losing heart. Because often we do give up. We give up in prayer. We lose heart. There are so many reasons. Sometimes because our prayers aren't answered. Sometimes because of our suffering, or especially the suffering of people we love, and we feel angry with God and aggrieved and confused, as if he is unjust. He's not, but we feel that. Sometimes it's just boredom, or it's busyness, or it's darkness. A very common experience is the joy of prayer at the beginning. Maybe we have a little conversion as a young adult and we discover prayer. I remember this. But then after a few weeks or months, it starts to fade a little bit, or even disappear, the joy, and we don't know how to make sense of this experience of something that seems so beautiful and wonderful, and now it seems very dry and boring. What's happened? Has God disappeared? Am I doing something wrong? Many other reasons, but just we've all been there, a feeling of losing heart and of just either radically wanting to give up or just prayer drifting away. And the message of the gospel parable and of the Moses story is simply, don't give up. Don't give up. Whatever the reason, and there might be 100, and I could go through each one of them and I could do the theology of why it's not a good reason, possibly, but just whatever the reason, Jesus and Moses undercut that, as it were, and say, whatever is going on, don't give up. Don't lose heart. And just use a little bit of logic. Yes, God is as real today as he was yesterday or a year ago when your prayer was going well. He hasn't changed. Prayer is just as important as it was yesterday or a year ago or 10 years ago. It's just as important for me as it is for everyone else around me and for all the great saints who have known the meaning of prayer. Don't give up. Don't lose heart. We need the virtue here of perseverance and a little bit of courage and gritty determination. He loves you, the Lord. He hasn't forgotten you. These kind of demons that play in our mind. God has forgotten me. He doesn't care. He's not interested. God has not forgotten you. He loves you. He doesn't love you any less just because things haven't worked out yet in exactly the way that you want them. Don't give up. I was going to say 3 words. What's don't? Does that count as 1 or 2 words? Do not give up. 4 words. Okay. Easy message. But there's a slightly different theme hidden away here as well, in both the Moses story and the Jesus parable, which is that sometimes prayer is hard work. Sometimes prayer is hard work, and it needs to be. And if we've never actually thought of this, right, you can never ever in your life say, you've never thought of this now, because I've just told you. But if we've never thought of this, it might take us by surprise and we feel that something's going wrong because we have to work hard at it. But sometimes prayer is just hard work. The effort of this widow to leave her home, to go across town, to bang physically on the door of the unjust judge, day and night, again and again and again and again. It was hard work. Moses on the mountain is exhausted. It's a lovely little symbol, isn't it? You can go to a praise and worship service, as one does, and hold your hands in the air, and it's magnificent, really. I've been there. Wonderful. But you try holding your hands up like that for half an hour, 3 hours, 15 hours. Prayer is hard work, as Moses found. And he needed the support of this rock that they rolled out so he could sit on it. And these 2 strong men either side to physically hold his arms up. Lovely symbols there. The rock of the church, the Old and the New Testament. We need the church to help us to keep praying, to find a place to pray. We need the support of our brothers and sisters, our community, ultimately of Jesus holding our hands up to help us join in his prayer. The woman is exhausted, Moses is exhausted, but they know that sometimes prayer is hard work. It's not necessarily pleasant always, but it's important, and we need to do that work. The Christian word for this in the spiritual tradition is asceticism. There is a Christian asceticism. It means self-discipline. It's from the Greek word askein. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly. To exercise. Asceticism. So yes, let's get this in balance. There is so much joy and beauty and peace often in prayer. There is lots of fulfillment. And we're meant to sometimes experience the peace and the joy and the happiness of praying alone, of praying with each other, of worshipping in the Mass. And this is what heaven is going to be like. It is going to be 100% joy. Okay, I've said that, but sometimes the danger of thinking only in that way is that we can treat prayer as if it is therapy, or self-care, or pampering. And we end up only praying when we feel like it, or when we're in the mood. or if prayer does get tough and a bit of hard work, we think something's going wrong and we give up. Sometimes prayer is just a job to do. Now that might sound very mundane and a bit unspiritual. It's not the only truth about prayer. There are so many truths about prayer, but sometimes it is a job to do. And I don't mean work as in justifying ourselves before God, but entering into the work and the mission of God. That He's called us to be people of praise and petition and thanksgiving and sorrow and intercession and worship. And these great verbs, the work of prayer, of course this engages us. Body, mind, soul, heart, gut. Of course it's going to cost us a little bit, like anything worthwhile. This doesn't diminish prayer. I hope it excites you. Yeah? Oh yes, prayer is not just contemplation and sitting quietly in the silence of meditation. It is that, but prayer is this great task, this great mission that should involve our whole energy. We're working at prayer for ourselves. We're working at prayer for others, especially intercession, praying for others. Sometimes we're worshipping for others because we know they're not able to worship. The sick, the tired, those who are on shift work and can't come to Mass today, we're praying for them. Those who are persecuted and in prison, we are praying for them. We have work to do for others. Just a tiny personal symbol of this. Yeah, I've got upstairs, I should have brought it down. I've got this indestructible rosary. Yeah, I got it online from America. Yeah, it's a rosary and it's made of parachute cord. So literally, I can take it to the gym, put it over one of the pull-up bars, and I can pull myself. I've never done this, but I can pull myself up by. It's made of military parachute cord. And I've got other rosaries and I like them at different times, but I like the idea that there's this great big weapon of a rosary here, yeah? And nothing can tear it from my hand and nothing can break it. And it's not like these cheap rosaries going to fall apart or the beads smash. Yeah, yeah. It's great fun. It's just a tiny symbol, but it is a symbol, quite a nice one, of the power of prayer and the gutsiness and the hard work that is required sometimes of our prayer. And just to end on a slightly more refined, meditative, contemplative note, I would say that the last element of prayer hidden away in these stories, which in fact is in the beginning of the Gospel, is it's not just about persevering in prayer day after day, or working hard at prayer day after day. It's about this beautiful phrase in the Gospel, praying unceasingly. To pray without ceasing. To pray continually. Not just frequently, but continually. This great mystery that the Christian authors have puzzled about for millennia, for 2,000 years. How is it possible for us to keep praying always and to never stop? It just seems impossible. Does it mean we don't eat, we don't sleep? I know I can't talk to you on the phone now, I'm praying. I've got to crash out of my exams because Jesus told me to pray continually. I can't function, basically, because I just read the Gospel and I want to take it seriously, and Jesus says never stop praying. Well, the answer is, in the tradition, this is about not necessarily orally or even mentally praying words all the time, but it's about living in the presence of God. Lovely phrase in St. Theophane the Recluse, the remembrance of God. Holding within us the remembrance of God. A kind of inner awareness that He is with us and we are with Him. Just like you can be sitting in the chapel or sitting in the library and aware of someone's presence next door to you, in the next desk, and then you forget, and then you kind of remember, oh yes, there's someone next to me, and you get on with your work or your prayer or your conversation, but you know that someone is there with you, and it changes something in your heart, in your attitude. The remembrance of God is called in another tradition recollection, where however busy we are with life, however dispersed and diffused our senses are, our activity is, we are nevertheless recollected, centred. I am me, and God is God, and He is with me, and I am with Him. And that is part of what it means to pray without ceasing. And what a gift it is to have that sense of God's presence and the reassurance and the love that He gives us and the peace of heart, so that even within the ups and downs and the turmoil, and even as it were when I'm not praying, I am. I'm with God and He is with me. So we have great work to do, we have a mission to pray, but above all we want to remember that the Lord is the Lord and He is with us and we are with Him. And what a difference it makes to know that.